So guys, this is kind of insane. 2022 is already in the rearview mirror. And I think this has just been an absolutely amazing, amazing year. What a year for cinema as well. A lot of the big blockbusters that we were hyping up last year were certainly delivering. And we certainly got some disappointments this year, but now is that time. Now is the time to go through one of my favorite videos that I get to make on my channel. We're going to be talking about my 20 favorite movies of 2022 because, well, there were just too many good movies this year to not put them on the list. You might remember that last year I did 20 movies because we were back at the cinemas and we were just feasting our eyes on the silver screen once again. And here we are again. And honestly, I think 2022 might prove to be a stronger year overall than 2021 was. And I'm very excited to bring you guys my list for this year. But if you guys are a new viewer, go ahead and consider becoming a subscriber. Tap on that notification bell as well, because if you want the best place to talk all new things in cinema and entertainment, this channel is the place to be. And do me a favor, by the end of this video, smash that like button as well. That is a tremendous, tremendous help in getting this content out there to more people. And it only helps continue to grow this amazing community that I cannot believe has grown as much as it has in the past year. But before I get into my main list of 20, I do have a few honorable mentions that I have to talk about, even though these were on my list at some point or another during this year. And even though I wanted to put a lot of these movies on this list, I just couldn't. Scream, one of the better January releases that we've gotten. It's one of the better legacy movies that we've gotten in recent memory. And it certainly embraces the craziness of this franchise, and I'm sure this movie would have made Wes Craven extremely proud. Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, a Paramount Plus exclusive that was just one of the funniest movies I saw this year. Beast, man, that is a movie that I had so much fun watching in the theaters. It's a huge throwback to the 90s monster movies that we all grew up loving. Idris Elba was such a badass in the film, and man, is it even more fun on a rewatch. Mr. Harrigan's Phone, one of the most overlooked Netflix releases of the year. Two powerhouse performances by Jaden Martell and Donald Sutherland. And similar to Gerald's Game, this is definitely one of the more overlooked Stephen King adaptations that you're gonna get. Definitely recommend checking that one out. Speaking of Netflix exclusives, The Sea Beast, an endearing animation with a powerful message that still resonates. On the topic of animation, I would like to talk about Lightyear, because this movie was on my top 20 for the longest time. A couple more animations came out in the last month of 2022 that overtook it. But for a while, this was the most fun animated movie I remember seeing all year long. Andy Davis's favorite movie is a great concept. Chris Evans is phenomenal casting for a new generation. And it's overall just a fun adventure. The Northman, again, another movie that was on my top 20 for the longest time. Great direction from Robert Eggers and phenomenal performances across the board. I love the Viking aesthetic of this film as well. And the revenge aspect is so incredibly satisfying. But yeah, it does feel a bit formulaic when you compare it to other revenge epics of the past. And this last honorable mention is going to get me some heat real quick. Avatar: The Way of Water. Yeah, this is not in my top 20. Just because, speaking of derivatives, I counted at least 10 different Lion King references in this one. One of the characters is exactly like Mowgli from the Jungle Book, like beat for beat. But that doesn't mean that I didn't like this movie. I actually really enjoyed watching this in the theaters. 3 hours flew by. The effects are still as amazing as they ever have been. And I think James Cameron outdid himself. This movie, I think, is superior to the original Avatar, and it made me excited to return to Pandora in the future for the Seed Bearer in a couple of years. I think it's going to be called the Seed Bearer. But with all those honorable mentions out of the way, guys, let's get right down to it. Number 20. Probably one of the most outside-the-box choices on this list. Weird the Al Yankovic story is easily my favorite music person biopic that we've gotten this year, and it's not the formulaic music person biopic that you're used to. Weird Al Yankovic himself was involved in the writing of this screenplay, and if you're a fan of Weird Al Yankovic, you can pretty much imagine what he does with this. I thought everybody they got for this cast was incredible. Daniel Radcliffe, I think, gives the best performance of his entire career, at least outside of the Harry Potter movies. Evan Rachel Wood was excellent. Rainn Wilson is extremely funny in this film. And it's just amazing to hear Weird Al's voice singing his songs on a big budget film like this. If you want to talk about war epics done right, All Quiet on the Western Front certainly delivers that on many levels. This is a German film, my friends. I think it's a shoo-in to win Best Foreign Film at the Oscars this year. Man, oh man, is it great. Because it really gives you a stark contrast between the people like Daniel Bruhl's character, who are the social elite, just watching all the havoc being inflicted on the battlefield. And then when you're actually put onto the field with these soldiers, you really feel like you're there. And I think this movie, similar to a Hacksaw Ridge, captures the true horror and the terror of war. It honestly may be the best war movie since Hacksaw Ridge, if I'm really thinking about it. David Leitch's Bullet Train was just a straight up blast from beginning to end. Every single person that he got for this ensemble is on top of their game. Brad Pitt is much more reserved than we're used to seeing from him. And the big show stealers are our twins, played by Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson. You heard me. Even a musical artist like Bad Bunny, who you wouldn't really expect to be great in this movie, such a badass. Certainly get some of the most brutal action that you'll get all year long with David Leitch at the helm. This movie is on Netflix right now. If you missed it in theaters, definitely highly recommend checking it out. Speaking of Netflix, coming in at number 17, we have the most recent movie I watched on this countdown, Rian Johnson's Glass Onion. Even though this sequel is not better than Knives Out, in my opinion, it's all going to come down to personal preference in that regard. Glass Onion was still such a fun time. Daniel Craig once again kills it as the greatest detective who ever lived. And once again, Rian Johnson's sharp writing really keeps you on your toes throughout this entire 2 hour and 15-minute runtime. Once again, theoretically and literally, Rian Johnson has flipped the script on what a whodunit mystery can be. And if Rian Johnson wants to keep making these movies with Benoit Blanc at the helm, with Daniel Craig, I would not be opposed. As long as he keeps putting together banger ensemble casts like this one and the original Knives Out. Prey was awesome. This was one of the most badass action movies you could have gotten this year. This is one of the biggest surprises I could have gotten this year as well. We got this one and Bullet Train in the same weekend. Us action movie fans were eating good first weekend of August. You have such an amazing leading performance. The Predator looks as intimidating as he ever has been. And Dan Trachtenberg continues to prove himself to be one of the most underrated filmmakers out there right now. Speaking of underrated, we have Fresh. One of the most unique ideas for a psychological horror film that I can remember in quite some time. Daisy Edgar Jones is a fantastic hero in this. It's very, very easy to get behind her. But the big show stealer in Fresh is Sebastian Stan. Now, he's probably not going to get nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards, but man, is this performance going to put him as a cult hero. I would almost liken this to the Patrick Bateman of our generation. He was enrapturing to watch. Go check it out just for Sebastian Stan's performance alone, if nothing else. Speaking of crazy-ass horror movies, we have at number 14... Oh, my buddy Jacob Hubbard's going to be so disappointed in me that this is so low on my list. But you know what, man? It felt right to put this on my countdown, thinking about how f***ed up it was. Barbarian is just one of those movies that will leave your jaw on the floor. One of the most unpredictable third acts I can remember in a long, long time. It's some of the most brutal and disgusting subject matter that I can remember. You know, of all the fun comedies that came out this year, why is nobody talking about The Lost City anymore? Because we don't get big budget mid-2000s style comedies like this anymore. Studios usually don't nab the big movie stars and the big action style budget for comedies like this. But The Lost City just worked. Sandra Bullock as your stern author hero, Channing Tatum as your big lovable oaf. That is just excellent comedic chemistry right there. And Daniel Radcliffe showing you what would have happened if John Hammond from Jurassic Park went bat insane. These are just all incredible ingredients for a fantastic comedic cocktail. Well, not to mention Brad Pitt just having his Brad Pitt fun. If you were to tell me 6 months ago that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was going to be making an appearance on this video, I would have told you you were insane. Because the trailers for this thing did not sell me on it whatsoever. But then I sit down and I watch the movie, and I'm hearing Antonio Banderas do his thing again. And just thinking about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish makes me feel like a kid again. I have so much nostalgia for the original Shrek movies. The first Puss in Boots movie itself wasn't really all that bad either. This one far surpasses it. This is easily the best movie in the Shrek franchise since Shrek 2 came out in 2004. You also have Salma Hayek and Florence Pugh doing their amazing thing in here. The animation on this movie is absolutely stunning. And I'm gonna urge you guys, I've said it before and I'll say it again, please go and support Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, especially if you're a fan of Shrek. Because if this movie does not make enough money, and we don't get any more Shrek movies because nobody went and saw this in the theater, I'm gonna be really sad. Because the way this movie is tackling themes of mortality and fear of death, DreamWorks just gets it. Considering the tragic circumstances going on behind the scenes, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever should not have worked. Ryan Coogler finished writing the script and he actually presented it to Chadwick Boseman, and then shortly after Boseman read the full script, he passes away. This movie had everything working against it, but if there's one thing you need to learn about Ryan Coogler, never doubt him. This is easily the best out of the MCU that we've gotten this year. It was so amazing to be back in Wakanda, experiencing this world and this culture. And the screenplay also exploring themes about grief and how you overcome this. And also the glimmers of hope that it's providing along in there. This is a very, very, very strong sequel to a movie that I thought was actually pretty overrated. And I honestly think this movie existing only elevates the importance of that first Black Panther movie and makes it all the better. Everybody certainly came to play. Angela Bassett is phenomenal. She should get a Best Supporting Actress nomination 100%. Namor as your villain is so captivating. And doing the Blue People before James Cameron could even show us the Blue People movie. Halfway through, guys, starting off our top 10, we have a movie that feels like it was made for me. Nicolas Cage makes his second straight appearance in a movie that really shouldn't work on the surface level. Him playing himself in just a big meta-theatrical narrative. There's just something so incredibly endearing about this movie. The fact that it's just paying great tribute to filmmaking in general and the filmmaking industry. It has a lot of really captivating and interesting things to say, but it does it in its own great little charming way. Nicolas Cage is knocking it out of the park. Pedro Pascal is hilarious in this thing. And it's one of those spring comedies like The Lost City that's getting very much overlooked right now. If you haven't rewatched Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent recently, I highly encourage you guys to do so. And coming in at number 9 is a movie that's bound to get a lot of Oscar nominations, I'm sure. Martin McDonagh, in my mind, did it again with The Banshees of Inisherin. A lot of people might call this movie on the surface level boring because, for the most part, it's just two friends who are very fractured, and you don't necessarily know the reason why. Brendan Gleeson's character doesn't even really give Colin Farrell's character that much of a reason why he doesn't want to interact with him anymore. But with Martin McDonagh's writing, you just want to keep watching the movie and find out what's going to happen next. And what you get is Martin McDonagh at his darkest. Man, oh man, the resolutions and the ultimatums that these two friends come to are just... oh man. It's just one of those movies that you gotta see to believe. Now the top 8, my friends. Man, this was... 2022's list was tough. Honestly, if any of the next 8 movies came out by themselves in any other year, without any of the other movies accompanying it, they could be number 1 any other year. Let me reiterate that all these movies on this list are great, but these next 8 I consider the top tier of 2022. And we're gonna start with what I think is 2022's best animation. Now, I grew up with the Pinocchio story. I've seen the Pinocchio story done to death. We all grew up with the Disney animated classic from the golden age. And we all still love that movie. A lot of us still show it to our children and pass it on to new generations. Hell, Disney even remade that movie earlier this year to continue their trend. Guillermo del Toro put them to shame. Because this is what I want in a Pinocchio remake. Guillermo del Toro has some super inventive character designs. The animation on this movie is second to none. The stop motion, unbelievable. It almost looks like each one of these characters, even the human ones, it's almost like everything is wood carved. And it just makes the world all the more quirky. And my god, the themes that this version of Pinocchio explores... Oh, if you thought that the first Pinocchio went dark, you ain't seen nothing yet. Now, coming in at number 7 is a movie that I'm sure is going to top a lot of lists here on YouTube because of how unique it is. And yes, a lot of you might say that Everything Everywhere All at Once is way too damn low in my top 10, but in the long haul, it's still in my top 10. At one point, I was even debating about putting this number 1, because when you look at it just on the surface level, this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, absolutely incomparable. You can't exactly liken this movie to anything else you've ever seen before in your natural-born lives. And the team that brought you Swiss Army Man a few years ago, which is a very, very bizarre movie in its own right, they managed to one-up themselves on the weird factor. I know everybody's saying Michelle Yeoh should win Best Actress, and I'm absolutely on board with that, but please do not overlook what I think is the comeback performance for a male actor this year, Ki Huy Kwan. Short Round from Temple of Doom, Data from the Goonies. Now he's back as a full-grown adult with Chunk as his talent agent, and his ceiling right now, especially after the work he put in alongside Michelle Yeoh in this. And damn, this movie's title, if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't think you could ever find a more literal movie title this year than this one. Now coming in at number 6 is my pick for the best pure horror movie of the year. Scott Derrickson walked away from Multiverse of Madness due to creative differences. But that might have been the best move, because if he had stayed on and directed Doctor Strange 2, we would not have gotten this masterclass. The Black Phone is the best pure scary movie that you'll see this year. Ethan Hawke as the Grabber is just so darn unsettling. The tension that he establishes with these two young performers who I guarantee you're going to be seeing those two young kids a lot more. But you could just cut the tension with a butter knife here. The writing in this and the direction, it is just maximized fear. Scott Derrickson knows how to do that. If you've ever seen Sinister, which is an amazing scary movie in its own right, we should have known better. This movie was not only as scary as Sinister, I think it's better. Which, if you know how Scott Derrickson helms scary movies, you know that's a massive compliment. Probably the biggest surprise in my top 5, even just personally speaking, was The Menu. Ralph Fiennes is just such an enigma. In my humble opinion, this is Ralph Fiennes' best work of his entire career, which is saying something, because that man, living legend. Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, everybody involved in this project is absolutely incredible. This script is one of the sharpest scripts. It has one of the best allegories to the film industry you'll ever see. And I think it's one of the most ambitious psychological thrillers to come out in a while. And this movie will make you want to eat a cheeseburger immediately after watching it.
This is a tasty burger.
Now, this top 4 was really, really, really tough to put together, because any one of these movies easily could be number 1 for sure. Coming in at number 4, we have the blockbuster sensation of this calendar year, Top Gun Maverick. And I rewatched this movie yesterday with my parents for the first time, and they were both absolutely blown away by this. My mom transfixed on the screen. The plane shots that Joseph Kosinski is able to achieve in this, I don't know how he does it. And this was one of the coolest theater experiences that I got this year, certainly. I'm not high on the Top Gun nostalgia like a lot of other people are. I never really grew up with the original Top Gun. But I can objectively say that I think that Maverick is better. Tom Cruise, I don't think, has ever been better in terms of his acting chops. This man just doesn't ever seem to age. This guy is a living legend and he continues to prove it. Miles Teller as the son of Goose is absolute phenomenal casting. This is a big coming out party for Glenn Powell as well. Top Gun Maverick is a movie that you certainly do not want to miss. Certainly what blockbuster filmmaking is all about. In terms of legacy movies, doesn't get much better than this one. If War for the Planet of the Apes was Matt Reeves' masterpiece, I said it before and I'll say it again, The Batman is his magnum opus. Because Matt Reeves has given me something that I have wanted to see in a Batman film for a really long time. A noir-style detective mystery. The Dark Knight playing up his detective side just like a lot of the best cartoons starring the late Kevin Conroy, rest in peace. And in terms of live-action Batmans, Robert Pattinson just might be the best one. And if there's anybody out there who wants to continue to joke that he's Sparkle Edward Cullen and all that, I'm not going to stand for it anymore. It's all over. Robert Pattinson is continuing to prove himself and get rid of that stigma that's been following him for the past decade. I think he captures the moody essence of a young Bruce Wayne, and I think he certainly captures the vengeance once he dons the cowl. Doesn't even refer to himself as Batman until the very end. He's always referred to as Vengeance throughout the whole runtime. That's a great idea. Dare I say, Paul Dano as our Riddler is a Riddler that I have wanted to see for a long, long time. This movie delivered on every facet. Matt Reeves should be very, very, very proud of this movie. 3 hours flies by. And coming in at number 2, we have the latest entry from who I consider the greatest director of all time. Steven Spielberg's love letter to his passion, The Fabelmans, was everything I could have ever wanted it to be. This movie was emotionally gripping. It was funny. You had a fantastic leading performance from Spielberg's Avatar in here, so to speak. And congratulations also to Paul Dano, who continues to pick great projects. Michelle Williams is also the best she's been in a while. Definitely a shoo-in, at least for a nomination at the Academy Awards. And I think I can safely say that The Fabelmans is Steven Spielberg's best movie since Lincoln. Everything you've been hearing about The Fabelmans is true. This is the movie Steven Spielberg has been waiting his entire life to make. And I've been hearing rumors that this may be Steven Spielberg's swan song. If it is, he went out with a big bang. The moment of truth. What is the one movie that I had the most fun watching in the theater and the most fun even rewatching the handful of times that I have since then? Well, that movie is. If The Fabelmans was about the influence, Nope is the result of the influence. And Nope is going to be one of those movies that carries us into a whole new generation. Jordan Peele, the 2 films that he made before this I've absolutely loved. Get Out I actually do consider a masterpiece after multiple viewings. Us is a very fun, pure horror movie. And it's very, very clear watching Nope that Jordan Peele grew up watching directors like Steven Spielberg do their thing, putting things like Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind out into the open. And Nope absolutely realizes Jordan Peele's full potential as a filmmaker. The scary thriller genre absolutely needs this guy. He absolutely knows what he's doing behind the camera. And he has so many incredible tools in order to maximize the fear factor. The wacky inflatable arm flailing tube men just falling down to the floor in and amongst themselves whenever this big alien thing comes out of the clouds. It's absolutely breathtaking. And you have never seen night scenes shot like the ones you see in Nope. Even after rewatching this movie the handful of times that I have since the theater, I still have no idea how they did it like this. And I still have no idea how they made it look as good as they do. All 3 of the central performances are outstanding. Daniel Kaluuya once again does not disappoint in a Jordan Peele production. Steven Yeun plays a role that is unlike any other he's seen in his career. He's a ringmaster, he's a showman. But lest we forget about Keke Palmer, the comeback performance by a female actor this year. It was so amazing to see her again bring so much energy to this performance. And yeah, some of you might argue that this movie is too derivative of Jaws, basically like Jaws in the clouds. Here's my argument though. If this movie is exactly like Jaws, the original Jaws basically would dictate that the mayor of this town would bring people back to the beaches just to see the shark. And he would basically be a showman being like, hey, Here's a shark. He's unlike anything you've ever seen before in your lives. Nope, I feel like manages to put in just enough of their own unique twist to this story that it makes it stand out in and amongst itself. I'll never forget sitting in that auditorium that night watching this thing and just being enamored with it. And Jordan Peele not only knows how to set up tension within the movie itself, but he also knows how to set up tension in the room. I can't tell you how many silent moments we shared in that first viewing where everybody was just sitting there with some nervous laughter in there. And then when he knows how to implement a jump scare, everybody just gets on the edge of their seats. Nope was an experience unlike any other in the movie theater. This is my favorite movie of 2022 for that very reason, and also because Jordan Peele is doing his thing. He really is becoming one of those can't-miss directors, my friends, and Jordan Peele, I cannot wait to see what else you do. Nope was absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it. And I love sharing every second of talking movies with you guys this year. Thank you so much for sticking with me through another year of cinematic talk. It has been such a joy. Here's to a great 2023. If you're new, one more reminder to smash that subscribe button. Tap on that notification bell because you're not going to want to miss another new upload from this point on. Hit that like button as well if you enjoyed what you saw today. Guys, thank you so much again. Y'all are the best. Truly, it really is a joy. With all that being said, my friends, let me know what your favorite movies of 2022 are down in the comments. I can't wait to see your guys' lists and compare and contrast. And with all that being said, back talk commence!